The war between humans and the Varel Dominion had stretched across the galaxy for 6 long years. Entire worlds had been burned, countless lives lost, and yet neither side had been willing to surrender. On Archeon Prime, the front lines of the final human resistance, the air was thick with smoke and ash. The sky glowed with red and orange streaks as fire from exploded ships fell like sparks from the heavens. The ground was torn apart by massive craters, and the remains of human and alien vehicles littered the battlefield. The smell of burnt metal, fuel, and blood mixed into a heavy, choking scent that made breathing difficult. Lieutenant Aaron Blake crawled from behind the broken hull of a human tank. His armor was battered, scratched, and scorched from countless explosions. His pulse rifle felt unusually heavy in his hands, as though it had absorbed the exhaustion of every fight he had fought. Around him, the sounds of battle were slowly fading. The screams of dying soldiers, both human and alien, had quieted to faint echoes, leaving only the hum of machinery and the occasional distant boom. He looked around. Smoke rose in thick clouds from the ruined city behind him, and the remains of his squad were scattered across the field. His heart sank as he recognized the bodies of friends he had trained with, laughed with, and fought beside. Their faces, now frozen in lifeless expressions, were burned into his memory. Aaron clenched his fists, forcing himself to breathe through the pain and grief. He knew survival meant staying alive until he could strike back. As he moved cautiously across the rubble, he spotted movement in the distance. Tall, silver-skinned figures appeared through the haze, their black armor glinting in the red light of the burning battlefield. These were virile warriors, elite soldiers of the alien empire. They moved with precision, scanning the ground for survivors. Aaron's instincts screamed at him to hide, but he was already too exposed. He ducked behind the remains of a collapsed building as their sensors swept over the field. He could hear their boots crunching on the debris, the soft mechanical whir of their suits adjusting to the uneven terrain. Suddenly, a Varel patrol stumbled upon his hiding spot. He froze, holding his breath, praying they wouldn't notice him. One of the aliens raised its weapon, a long silver staff that hummed with energy. Aaron realized there was no way to fight his way out. He raised his hand slowly, his pulse rifle clattering to the ground. The Varel moved in unison, surrounding him. Their leader, a tall figure with golden eyes that shone like molten metal, stepped forward. Her presence was commanding and terrifying, yet there was something almost human in the way she observed him. "Human soldier," she said, her voice smooth but firm, echoing slightly in the ruined city. "You have fought well, though foolishly. Tell me, why do you continue to resist when your world is falling?" Aaron looked at her without fear. Even though every instinct told him to plead or lie, he stood straight, his chin high. "Because that's what humans do," he said simply. "We don't give up. We don't kneel even when we're losing." The alien queen tilted her head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost thoughtful. "You are different from what I expected. Most of your kind would have begged for mercy or begged for death by now." Aaron said nothing. Letting his calm defiance speak for him, the Varel warriors grabbed him by his arms and began dragging him through the ruins. Every step felt heavier, yet Aaron refused to struggle. Resistance now would only weaken him further. He looked around, noting the devastation. Buildings he had walked past weeks ago as a soldier, carrying supplies and helping refugees, were now reduced to ashes. He remembered the civilians who had begged for evacuation, their faces filled with hope and terror. Many had not survived. The weight of loss pressed on him, but he refused to let it crush his spirit. Survival was not just for him. It was for them, for every life that could still be saved. Eventually, they brought him to a massive structure at the heart of the city, a tall building made of reflective silver material that seemed to glow faintly in the dark haze. It was the command center of the Varel on Archeon Prime. As he was led through the halls, Aaron noticed intricate patterns carved into the walls, glowing with soft light. The architecture was elegant, alien, and unlike anything he had ever seen. It was clear that the Varel prized not only strength but also beauty and order. Every detail, from the sweeping arches to the polished floors, spoke of a civilization far more advanced than humans, at least in technology. At the end of the hallway, Aaron was brought before the queen herself. She was taller than any Varel he had seen in battle, her golden eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. Her armor was ornate, adorned with symbols and designs that marked her as the ruler of this alien empire. But despite her imposing appearance, there was something in her gaze that went beyond power. It was curiosity, and perhaps something else he could not name. "Remove your helmet," she commanded, her voice firm but not unkind. Aaron hesitated. His helmet was more than protection. It was a shield. It kept the outside world from seeing his pain, his fatigue, and the fear that sometimes crept in despite his best efforts. Yet he knew there was no escape in hiding. Slowly, deliberately, he unlatched the helmet and lifted it away. As the air rushed in, Aaron felt the sting of dust and smoke in his lungs. He blinked against the harsh light of the throne chamber. The queen's golden eyes widened slightly. Perhaps it was his face, bruised and dirty but unbroken. Perhaps it was the calm defiance in his eyes. She had seen countless prisoners, yet none had looked at her like this without fear, without pleading. "You are unlike any human I have encountered," she murmured almost to herself. Aaron met her gaze. "I fight for more than survival. I fight for what is right, for my people, for home." The queen's gaze softened imperceptibly. She stepped closer, circling him like one would circle a rare animal in the wild. Her presence was suffocating yet mesmerizing. Aaron could feel the power radiating from her, the quiet strength of someone used to absolute obedience. And yet he was not afraid. "Why do you not beg for mercy?" she asked again, genuinely curious. "Because mercy is meaningless if it comes at the cost of what you are," he said. "And I am not willing to lose myself." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Aaron could hear the distant hum of the city outside, the faint crackle of fires, the soft footsteps of guards shifting uneasily. He realized that something in the queen had shifted. She had expected fear, submission, despair. Instead, she had found resolve, strength, and an unwavering belief in something greater than herself. The queen turned, her long robes flowing as she walked back to her throne. "Most of your kind would die quietly," she said. "You do not." Aaron said nothing. He knew words would not convey the depth of what he felt, and perhaps they would not matter. The truth was in his eyes, in his posture, in the refusal to bow before her. She gestured for her guards to release his arms. "Walk with me," she said. "I wish to understand what makes a human heart burn so brightly, even when the world falls apart." As they walked through the glowing halls, Aaron looked around. The Virel city was beautiful in a way he could not describe. It was orderly, alive, yet cold. He saw creatures unlike any he had imagined, walking alongside soldiers, moving with purpose and grace. Despite the destruction outside, inside the queen's domain, life continued with precision and control. The queen glanced at him. "Your species is strange. You fight even when defeat seems certain. You risk everything, yet you cling to hope." "Why?" Aaron thought for a moment. "Because hope is all we have. Even when the odds are against us, we fight because we must. Surrender is easy, but it changes nothing. Fight and maybe something changes. Maybe we survive. Maybe we win. Maybe someone sees that it's possible to stand, even when all is lost." The queen studied him closely. He could feel her eyes weighing him not as a prisoner, but as a subject of fascination. It was unsettling but also human. Something in the way she looked at him reminded him of why humans fought. Not for victory alone, but for respect, for understanding, for recognition of what was right. "Perhaps your kind is more dangerous than I thought," she said finally, her voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. "Not because of your weapons, not because of your numbers, but because of your will." Aaron allowed himself a small, tired smile. Maybe that's the difference between humans and conquerors. The queen said nothing more that day, but Aaron sensed that this encounter would not be the last. Something had shifted between them, a fragile understanding, a spark of curiosity. He did not know if it would save him or if it would lead to his death. But for the first time in 6 long years of war, he felt that survival was not just about fighting, it was about connection, about being seen for who he truly was. And in the heart of the Virel Empire, among silver walls and golden eyes, a human soldier had made an impression that could change everything. After the first meeting, Aaron was led through the vast corridors of the Queen's palace. The walls were made of a strange, polished metal that reflected the soft blue and purple lights running along the ceiling. Streams of energy flowed like rivers in the floor, sending soft hums through the building. Every step Aaron took echoed in the empty hallways, reminding him of the distance he had traveled from Earth and the power of the Virel Empire surrounding him. He had survived countless battles, yet walking through the Queen's domain was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Queen Lysera led him to a large chamber at the heart of the palace. The room was enormous, circular, and filled with glowing pillars. From the center, a transparent platform floated slightly above the ground, and on it sat a tall, elegant chair made of a crystal-like material. The platform seemed to pulse with energy, as if it were alive. It was here that the queen commanded her empire, and now Aaron would face the power he had fought against for so long. "Sit," she said, pointing to a smaller chair opposite her throne. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of command. Aaron hesitated for a moment, then obeyed. The chair was smooth and cool beneath him. He felt exposed, a lone human in the midst of alien splendor. Yet he refused to look afraid. His hands rested on his knees, his back straight, his blue eyes meeting hers without flinching. "You are curious," Lysra said after a long pause. "Even in defeat you do not fear me. You do not plead. You do not cry. Why?" Aaron took a deep breath, considering his words carefully. "Fear does not help. Begging does not help. And crying, it cannot bring back the people I lost. I can only move forward one step at a time and fight for what I can still protect." The queen studied him for several long seconds. Her golden eyes were unblinking, yet they held a trace of something softer, almost human. She had faced thousands of warriors, yet none had answered her like this. Most would have cowered, begged, or tried to deceive her. But Aaron, he was different. He was not just brave. He was steady even in the face of certain death. "You speak of protection," she said, her voice softening. "Yet your kind has brought destruction to my worlds. Thousands of your people have fought against us, and yet you speak of defending something greater. Tell me, what is it you defend?" Aaron thought about Earth, his home, the planet he had sworn to protect even as it was under siege. "I defend my people, my home. The idea that one day humans can live free without fear of being conquered. That is what I fight for. Not victory, not power, but freedom." The queen's expression did not change, yet her eyes lingered on him longer than before. She had heard the words of many humans, soldiers, and diplomats alike. Most spoke of strategy, conquest, or survival. Few spoke of ideals, and even fewer spoke of hope. Yet Aaron's words carried a strength she could not ignore. "You speak of ideals," she said finally. "Yet you are only one human. Alone, you are nothing. Why do you cling to hope when all seems lost?" Aaron looked at her squarely. "Because hope is what makes life worth living. Without hope, we are nothing. Even when the odds are against us, even when the world is burning, hope tells us to keep moving. To keep fighting, to survive, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Lysra leaned back slightly, considering his words. She had never met anyone like him. The Viral valued strength, discipline, and order above all else. Emotions were a tool, used to inspire or control. Yet this human, he seemed to live and fight with emotion, and it gave him power. Quiet, steady power. "Most humans would die without thinking," she said softly. "They would panic, flee, or beg. You are calm. Even now you are not afraid." Aaron shrugged slightly, feeling the tension in the room. "Fear is natural, but if you let it control you, it destroys you. I've seen my friends die. I've seen cities fall, and yet I keep moving forward. That is the only choice I have." Lysra stood and walked slowly around him, her golden eyes tracing every movement, every breath. "You are unlike any human I have encountered. Your kind is chaotic, reckless, unpredictable, yet you stand before me calm, collected, and defiant. Tell me, human, what gives you such courage?" Aaron met her gaze without hesitation. "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. I am afraid, yes. I am tired, yes. But I cannot stop. Not when people depend on me. Not when the world depends on me." The queen paused, her expression unreadable. For the first time in years, she felt a strange emotion, something she could not name. She had conquered countless worlds, ruled thousands of subjects, and faced many brave opponents. Yet Aaron's calm defiance stirred something unfamiliar within her. It was neither anger nor fear, it was curiosity and perhaps admiration. "You speak of ideals and hope," she said finally, her voice quieter now. "But ideals do not win wars. Hope does not rebuild cities. Your words are meaningless against the power of the Viral Dominion." Aaron smiled faintly, tired but determined. "Maybe, but words can inspire. Hope can change hearts. And courage. Courage can spark something bigger than power. One person standing can inspire many. That is how humans survive. That is how humans fight." Lysra turned her gaze toward the windows that looked out over the ruined city. Smoke rose in dark columns. Fire burned in patches across the plains, and the sky glowed with the fading light of battle. She had seen thousands of soldiers fall that day, human and virile alike. Yet this one human had not begged, had not cowered, had not lost his spirit. He had endured, faced her, and spoken words that made her pause. "You are bold," she said finally, her voice carrying a hint of respect. "Bold enough to speak freely before a queen. Do you not fear what I might do?" Aaron shook his head slightly. "I have faced fear all my life. I will face it now too. What is a queen to me if I know my heart is right and my cause is just?" Lysira studied him, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. She had been trained to see weakness, deception, and manipulation. But Aaron, she could find none. He was honest, raw, and unshakable. The thought intrigued her. Perhaps this human had a kind of strength that even the virile could not understand. "You will stay here for now," she said finally. "You will not be executed, though the council has demanded it. I wish to study you, to understand why your kind continues to resist, even in the face of certain defeat." Aaron nodded, though he knew he had no choice in the matter. Still, he remained calm, his spirit intact. He had survived this far, and he would continue to survive. He would learn what he could about the virile, and perhaps in time find a way to protect his people. Over the following days, Lysira summoned him often. She asked him questions about humans, about Earth, about the wars he had fought and the people he had loved. Aaron answered each question honestly, without embellishment or fear. He told her of the oceans that stretched endlessly on Earth, the forests that glowed with life, the warmth of human families, and the simple joys humans cherished. "Your people are different," she said one day after listening to his stories. "Most creatures I have encountered fight for survival or power. You fight for something intangible, something I cannot see, yet I can feel it in you." Aaron nodded. "That is hope. That is freedom. That is what makes us human. We fight because we believe in something larger than ourselves." Lysira remained silent for a long time, staring at him. The more she listened, the more she realized that humans were dangerous, not because of their weapons or their numbers, but because of their hearts. They would fight not for conquest, not for order, not for glory, but because they believed it was right. "You are unlike any being I have encountered," she said finally, her voice almost a whisper. "You are small, fragile, yet you burn with a light I cannot extinguish." Aaron felt no pride, only quiet determination. "I am human, that is all. But sometimes, that is enough." Lysira's golden eyes lingered on him longer than usual. Something in her had changed. She could see now that power alone did not define strength. Courage, will, hope, and defiance, these were forces that even the virile could not command. And this one human, battered and weary, had all of them. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel something almost forbidden: admiration for a human. Not as a ruler observing a subject, but as a being recognizing the fire of another being. Aaron remained silent, as he always did, letting his actions, his calm, and his presence speak for him. And in that quiet silence, a bond of understanding began to form, fragile, unspoken, yet undeniable. The days passed slowly within the virile palace. Aaron remained a prisoner, but the walls that held him were far different from the battlefield he had survived. The palace was quiet, apart from the soft hum of energy flowing through the walls and the occasional footsteps of guards patrolling the hallways. The city outside remained in chaos, but within these walls order reigned. Everything was controlled, precise, and almost unnatural in its perfection. Each day, Queen Lysira summoned Aaron to speak with her. Sometimes it was to answer her questions about humans, their history, and their strange ways of thinking. Other times, she simply watched him, observing how he moved, how he spoke, how he reacted to the world around him. Aaron noticed that her questions were not always about strategy or war. Often they were personal, small, and human in nature. She asked about family, about simple joys, about what it felt like to laugh or cry. Aaron answered honestly. He told her about his younger sister who loved to sing and about his father, who had taught him to repair machines by hand. He spoke of the warmth of his mother's cooking and the quiet comfort of evenings spent with friends around a small fire. At first, Lysira seemed uninterested, but as he spoke, he noticed a change in her expression. The golden light in her eyes softened, and her posture, always straight and commanding, relaxed just slightly. "You speak of simple things. Lysira said one evening. Things I do not understand. Your people find joy in small moments, even when the world is falling apart. Why do you not despair? Aaron looked at her calmly. Because despair does not help. It only eats away at you. Humans find strength in the small things. A laugh, a song, a warm meal, a friend by your side. These are what give us the courage to keep fighting. If we lose those, then the war is already over, no matter who survives. Lysira's golden eyes lingered on him, her mind turning over his words. She had known despair. She had watched worlds burn and armies fall, and yet she had always relied on control, on power, on fear to hold her people together. Could there be something stronger than control? Something more enduring than fear? The human's words suggested there was. Days turned into nights and nights into days, but the routine remained. Aaron would be brought to her chamber. Questions would be asked, answers given, and then he would be returned to his cell. Yet something between them had begun to change. Lysira found herself thinking of him when he was not present. She recalled the calmness in his eyes, the quiet strength in his voice, and the way he refused to yield to fear. It was during one of these quiet moments that she realized the Varel Council would not understand her fascination. They demanded obedience, conquest, and ruthless efficiency. They saw humans as nothing more than pests to be eradicated. To Lysira, Aaron was more than a prisoner. He was a puzzle, a challenge, a spark of something she could not name. One evening, after the usual questioning, Lysira did something unexpected. She walked to the guard outside Aaron's cell and dismissed him. "Leave us," she said, and the guard obeyed without question. She then opened the door wider and stepped inside. Aaron looked up, surprised. "My queen?" he asked, a note of caution in his voice. He had grown used to her presence in the chamber, but never this close, never unaccompanied. "I wanted to speak to you," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Alone." She closed the door behind her, and for the first time Aaron saw her without the full weight of her royal armor and adornments. She wore a simple robe, flowing and dark, but it did not hide the strength and authority she carried. He remained seated, waiting. Silence filled the room, heavy and electric. Aaron could feel the weight of her gaze, yet he did not flinch. He had faced fear on countless battlefields, and yet the uncertainty in this moment felt different. It was not danger he feared, but understanding. "You have changed the way I think," Lysira said finally. Her voice carried no judgment, only a quiet honesty. "I have seen countless humans. Most of them are predictable, selfish, and easily broken. You are none of those things." Aaron nodded, unsure of how to respond. "I am only doing what I must," he said simply. "I fight because I cannot do otherwise. I survive because I must. I live because I have to see the future we fight for." Lysira studied him closely. The words were simple, yet the meaning behind them was powerful. She realized that humans were dangerous not because of their strength or numbers, but because of their resilience, their will, and their ability to endure even the worst circumstances. "You speak of resilience," she said softly, "but do you not tire? Does hope not fade when the world is against you?" Aaron's eyes met hers. "Hope can be fragile, yes, but it is stronger than fear, stronger than death. I have seen friends die, cities burn, and still I find a reason to keep going. That is what makes humans different. We refuse to give up, even when there is no path forward." Lysira's lips curved slightly, almost a smile. It was a gesture she rarely allowed herself. "You speak of ideals that are meaningless in war, and yet I cannot dismiss you. There is something in your heart that refuses to bend, something I cannot control." Aaron looked down briefly, then back at her. "That is all any of us can do. Stand, fight, and hold on to what is right. Power is not always victory. Fear is not always strength. The heart, the will, these are what endure." The queen's eyes lingered on him, and she realized that for the first time in her life she saw a being who could teach her something about strength beyond power. Aaron had survived battlefields, loss, and fear, yet he remained unbroken. His strength was not in his weapons or his training, but in his spirit. In the days that followed, Lysira found herself seeking Aaron's presence more often. She asked him to describe the world of humans, the cities, the oceans, the forests, and the people who lived simple lives, yet carried hope within them. Aaron spoke with calm conviction, and each story seemed to light a spark within the queen. She had ruled with precision and fear, yet she began to see that there was another way, a way where courage, hope, and understanding could be as powerful as armies and weapons. One afternoon, Aaron was brought before her chamber as usual. This time Lysira did not question him about war or strategy. Instead, she asked, "Tell me about friendship. Why is it so important to your people?" Aaron considered the question carefully. "Friendship is trust. It is knowing someone will stand by you even when the world is against you. It is knowing you are not alone. We fight not just for ourselves but for those we care about. That is why humans endure. That is why we survive." Lysera nodded slowly. She realized that the Virel, despite their strength and intelligence, lacked this. They fought for honor, for power, for control, but rarely for one another. Humans fought for each other, and in that they held a power the Virel could not fully understand. "You are remarkable," she said softly, "not because you are strong, but because you are human. Your kind endures what others cannot, and yet you remain compassionate even to your enemies." Aaron met her gaze, and for the first time, he allowed a small, tired smile. "Compassion is not weakness," he said. "It is strength. It is what allows us to rebuild, to forgive, and to survive. Without it, even victory feels empty." Lysera remained silent for a long moment, absorbing his words. She realized that this human who had been her prisoner had already begun to change her. He had not struck her with weapons, nor threatened her with violence. Yet his presence, his words, and his unwavering spirit had shaken her in ways she had never expected. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel something that went beyond duty and command. She allowed herself to wonder if there was more to strength than control and conquest, and she began to question the path the Virel had always followed. Aaron, unaware of the depth of her thoughts, simply remained himself, calm, steady, and human. He had survived so much, and yet he remained unbroken. And in that simple truth, he had already begun to leave a mark on the queen of an empire. As the days passed, their conversations continued, and with each word, Lysera learned more about humans, about hope, and about courage. And Aaron in turn began to understand that not all Virel were the same, that even among conquerors there could be those who saw the world differently. In the quiet of the palace, amid energy flows and glowing pillars, a bond began to form, fragile, unspoken, yet undeniable. It was not friendship, nor trust, nor love, at least not yet. It was something simpler yet more powerful, understanding. And in a universe torn apart by war, understanding could be the first step towards something greater. Aaron and Lysera did not speak of it openly. They did not acknowledge it in words, but in their quiet moments, in the way they looked at each other, in the way they listened and spoke, the spark of connection grew. And neither of them, not even the queen herself, could ignore it. For the first time, the war did not feel like only destruction. It felt like possibility. The Virel Council had grown impatient. They had watched Aaron closely, and reports of the queen's unusual interest in the human had reached their ears. Whispers of treason and weakness spread through the corridors of power. Many council members were furious that the queen, ruler of the Virel Dominion, seemed distracted by one prisoner while the galaxy burned under human resistance. Lysera ignored the council's threats for a time, but the pressure was growing. Soldiers demanded action, advisors warned of rebellion, and the council insisted that Aaron be executed publicly to send a message to both humans and Virel alike. The queen knew that obeying would end her fascination, her curiosity, and perhaps the spark of change Aaron had ignited in her heart. And yet, defying the council carried risks she had never faced before. Aaron had noticed the tension building. The guards who escorted him to the queen's chamber moved with increased caution, their eyes scanning the halls nervously. When Lysera summoned him one afternoon, her expression was unreadable. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the usual chair in her chamber. Aaron obeyed. His body was tense, ready for any sudden attack. He had learned to trust nothing in the palace except the queen's presence, and even that was uncertain. "You have noticed the council's anger," she said softly. "They wish to see you executed. They believe you are a threat, because you inspire me. They do not understand what it means to fight for something greater than power." Aaron nodded. "I am not afraid. I have faced worse on the battlefield than a council's anger." Lysera studied him, her golden eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and worry. "It is not fear that will protect you," she said. "It is courage, and courage alone may not be enough." The following day, the council sent envoys to the palace, demanding an immediate decision. The air was tense as the queen met them, In the central hall, her guards at her side, and Aaron brought forward under watchful eyes. The council accused her of weakness, claiming that her fascination with a human prisoner threatened the honor of the Virel Dominion. They demanded that Aaron be executed before all Virel as an example of their power. Lysera listened, her expression calm, but her mind raced. She knew the council would not be satisfied with excuses. They demanded obedience, conformity, and blood. And yet, she could not turn her back on Aaron. Not now, not after seeing the strength in him. "I will not allow his execution," she said, finally, her voice steady, carrying authority that echoed through the hall. "He will remain under my protection. By my order, he is safe." The council erupted in outrage. "My queen, you defy the council. You threaten the empire. This human is nothing but a pest, and yet you shelter him," one of the envoys shouted. Lysera's eyes glowed faintly with controlled anger. "I do not shelter him for weakness. I do so because he has shown me what strength truly is. Power without courage is meaningless. Fear without hope is empty. And a ruler who cannot see the difference is blind." The envoy stepped forward, weapons in hand. The queen raised her hand, and her personal guards, elite warriors clad in black armor, stepped between Aaron and the council. The tension in the hall was thick, every eye fixed on the scene. It was clear that a single spark could ignite violence that would shake the palace. Aaron remained calm, standing beside the queen. He had fought countless battles, yet this was unlike any he had faced. Here, the enemy was not a soldier or a machine, but an entire council of powerful beings who believed obedience was the only law. Still, he trusted Lysera's presence and her strength. Together they were a force that could not be ignored. "You may attack me," Lysera said, her voice ringing clear. "You may try to remove him, but know this: I will not allow it. The Virel Dominion will follow me or it will crumble. Choose wisely." The council hesitated. They had never seen the queen speak with such resolve. Her guards, elite and loyal, were ready to act at a moment's notice, and beside her, the human soldier stood unarmed but unbroken, radiating calm confidence that unsettled even the most disciplined Virel warriors. Seeing no other choice, the council withdrew, their anger simmering. They promised retribution and whispered threats that would haunt the palace in the days to come. Lysera knew this was only the beginning. Defying the council openly would make her a target, but she had made her decision. Aaron would not die while she ruled. That night the queen visited Aaron's cell personally. The usual guards were dismissed and she stepped inside alone. Aaron rose, cautious but composed. "You risk everything for me," he said quietly. "The council will not forget this." Lysera shook her head. "I risk nothing for you alone. I risk everything for what you have shown me. Courage, hope, defiance. These are the true strengths of your kind. I see it now, and I cannot unsee it." Aaron studied her, noting the tension in her posture. "Then we stand together," he said. "If the council moves against us, we will fight as one. Not for conquest, not for power, but for what is right." The queen's expression softened, and for the first time she allowed herself a faint smile. "Then we stand together. But you must understand this will not be easy. The council has spies everywhere. Every step we take will be watched." Aaron nodded. "I have faced impossible odds before. I will face them again. As long as I fight with purpose, I survive. That is all I need to know." Over the next days, Lysera worked quietly to consolidate her position. She called meetings with her most trusted advisors and began to subtly shift loyalty among her guards and officers. Aaron observed, learning the nuances of Virel politics, realizing that this was a battlefield of strategy and intellect as much as strength. Despite the danger, Aaron remained composed. He knew that the queen's willingness to protect him was not just about him personally, but about what he represented: courage, hope, and the possibility of change. Together they could challenge the council, but the risks were enormous. If they failed, both their lives and the future of the Virel Dominion would be destroyed. Then came the night of the first open attack. A faction of council loyalists attempted to storm the palace, intending to capture Aaron and force the queen to submit. Alarms blared as the palace's energy shields flared to life. Lysera and her elite guards stood at the gates ready to defend. Aaron, though unarmed, positioned himself where he could move quickly, relying on his instincts and training. The attack was fierce. Virel soldiers charged, their energy blades humming, their armor reflecting the glowing lights of the palace. Lysera moved like a shadow, directing her guards with precision and confidence. Aaron dodged and blocked attacks, using his knowledge of tactics and battlefield movement to stay alive. Though outnumbered, their combined strategy and courage gave them the advantage. At one point, a soldier broke through the guards and lunged at Aaron. Without hesitation, he grabbed a fallen weapon and blocked the strike. The fight was brutal, fast and exhausting, but Aaron's calm focus and experience allowed him to survive. Around him, the queen's forces held the line, inspired by her leadership and the presence of the human who refused to yield. By dawn, the attackers were repelled. The palace had suffered damage, but the defenders had held. Lysera and Aaron stood, together on the outer terrace, looking out over the city. Smoke still rose from the ruins and the distant sounds of battle had faded, but the message was clear. They could survive, and they could inspire others. Lysera turned to Aaron, her expression both tired and resolute. "You have shown me more than I expected. Not just courage, but clarity. Even in chaos, you see the way forward." Aaron nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "We fight together, as equals. Not because I am human, not because you are queen, but because we understand each other." For the first time, Lysera felt the weight of what that meant. She had relied on fear, power, and strategy to rule her empire. Now she realized that understanding, courage, and hope could be just as powerful. And standing beside Aaron, she felt that spark, the beginning of a change that could transform not only her rule but the future of the virile dominion itself. The council would not stop. There would be more attacks, more threats, and more challenges. But for the first time, the queen and the human soldier were united, their bond forged in trust, courage, and shared purpose. Together, they would face whatever came next, and in doing so, begin a story that would be remembered across galaxies. The sun had barely risen over the shattered city of Archeon Prime when the alarm sounded again. The council's forces had regrouped, determined to crush Queen Lysera's defiance and finally eliminate the human soldier who had become the symbol of her unusual rebellion. Smoke and debris filled the streets as the first wave of attack moved toward the palace. Lysera stood on the outer terrace, her golden eyes scanning the horizon, and beside her, Aaron tightened the straps on his worn armor. "This may be the final battle," Lysera said softly. "If we fail, everything we have built will fall. The council will destroy us and all who follow." Aaron nodded, his expression calm but firm. "Then we fight, not for victory alone, but for what is right. We fight for freedom, for hope, for everyone who cannot fight for themselves." The first wave of soldiers approached, their energy weapons glowing in the morning light. Lysera raised her hand, signaling her elite guards. They moved like shadows, cutting through the advancing troops with precision. Aaron ran forward, using every skill he had learned on Earth's battlefields. He dodged blasts of energy, rolled under attacks, and used his pulse rifle to disable enemy soldiers without hesitation. Each movement was careful and deliberate, born from years of combat experience. The council's forces were stronger than any army Aaron had faced. They had numbers, training, and ruthless intent. But the defenders of the palace fought with purpose, and their unity was unmatched. Lysera's presence inspired them. Her calm command, paired with Aaron's fearlessness, gave her soldiers the courage to hold the line even as the battle became chaotic and brutal. Aaron noticed a group of soldiers attempting to flank the palace. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward them, using debris and ruins for cover. His pulse rifle fired in short, precise bursts, taking down enemies quickly. Despite being outnumbered, his focus never wavered. Every movement, every decision, was guided by his understanding of battle and his determination to protect not only himself but the queen and the people who had begun to trust him. Inside the palace, Lysera coordinated the defense. She used energy barriers to slow the enemy and directed reinforcements to critical points. Her golden eyes glowed with intensity, and her voice carried authority that inspired loyalty even in those who had once doubted her. She had never been tested like this, never faced a threat that required both strength and strategy at the same time. And yet, standing beside her, Aaron reminded her that courage and hope could be just as powerful as any weapon. As the battle raged on, the Queen and the human moved like a single unit. Lysra struck down attackers with precision, while Aaron protected the flanks and supported the guards. Each of them knew the other's movements almost instinctively. Their trust was absolute, built over days of shared conversation, observation, and respect. At one point, a council lieutenant broke through the outer defenses and charged directly at Aaron. He was taller and stronger than most humans, with armor designed to absorb impact. Aaron dodged a swing of the energy blade, rolling to the side and firing his pulse rifle. Sparks flew as the weapon connected with the lieutenant's armor. The alien soldier roared and swung again, but Aaron anticipated the movement, dodging and delivering a precise strike that disarmed him. The lieutenant fell, stunned and defeated, while Aaron remained standing, steady and unshaken. Lysra noticed the lieutenant's fall and gave a nod of approval. She realized something that Aaron already knew. Their courage was contagious. The guards around them fought harder, inspired by the human who refused to break. Each soldier, seeing the unwavering determination of their queen and her unusual ally, gained confidence. They realized that victory was possible not because of weapons alone, but because of unity, courage, and belief in a cause greater than themselves. The council, observing the battle from afar, grew frantic. Their forces were not only failing to overwhelm the palace, but were also suffering heavy losses. The Queen's strategy, combined with the humans' unpredictable courage, created chaos among their ranks. Soldiers who had trained to follow orders without question found themselves hesitating, unsure how to face this unity of human and virile strength. In the heart of the battle, Aaron spotted the commander of the council's forces, a tall, imposing figure wielding a massive energy staff. He was the strategist behind the attack, the mind orchestrating the attempt to crush the Queen's rebellion. Aaron knew that if this commander fell, the council's forces would lose coordination and morale. He sprinted forward, dodging blasts of energy and debris. Lysra noticed his movement and subtly shifted the barriers to give him cover. It was a silent acknowledgement of trust, a plan executed without words. Aaron reached the commander and engaged him directly. The fight was intense, a clash of strength, skill, and will. The commander swung the staff with incredible force, but Aaron's agility and precision allowed him to counter each strike. Finally, with a well-timed maneuver, Aaron disarmed the commander and knocked him to the ground. The remaining council forces faltered, confusion spreading like wildfire. The battle had turned. Seeing their commander defeated, the council's soldiers began to retreat. Lysra's forces pursued them only enough to secure the palace, careful not to overextend. When the last council soldier fled, silence fell over the battlefield. Smoke rose from ruined vehicles and destroyed weapons, but the palace and its defenders had survived. The victory was hard won, yet complete. Lysra walked to the edge of the terrace, looking out over the city. The destruction was immense, but the human presence beside her brought a sense of hope. Aaron stood quietly, tired but resolute. He had faced countless battles, yet this victory felt different. It was not just survival. It was a triumph of courage, unity, and purpose. "You have done what no one expected," Lysra said softly. Her voice carried warmth, almost human in its gentleness. "You have changed the course of this battle and perhaps the future of my empire." Aaron shook his head, weary but steady. "I did what anyone with hope and purpose would do. I fight because I must. I survive because I must. And I stand because it is right." Lysra turned to him, her golden eyes reflecting gratitude and admiration. "You are unlike any human I have known. You have strength not only in body but in heart. You have shown me that courage and hope can shape the future, even in the face of overwhelming odds." Aaron allowed himself a small smile. "And you have shown me that even rulers, even conquerors, can learn something new." "You have courage too, Lysra. Courage to defy the council, to protect what is right, and to see value in someone different from yourself." For a moment they stood together in quiet understanding. The battle was over, yet their journey was not. The council would not disappear entirely. Threats would remain. But the bond forged in this fight, between a human soldier and an alien queen, was stronger than fear. Stronger than weapons and stronger than any command of the council. In the days that followed, the city began to rebuild. The survivors, human and Virel alike, looked to the queen and the soldier for guidance. Lysera ruled with renewed understanding, incorporating lessons of courage, hope, and empathy into her leadership. Aaron, though still a soldier, became a symbol, proof that humans could stand unbroken even in the face of the galaxy's most powerful empire. One evening, after the city had quieted, Lysera invited Aaron to the palace gardens. The air was filled with the soft hum of energy and the glow of bioluminescent plants. Aaron walked beside her, taking in the beauty of a world that had once been a battlefield. "You have changed everything," Lysera said softly. "Not just the council, not just the city, but the way I see the universe." "I cannot thank you enough," Aaron smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me. I fought for what I believed was right, and you chose to see it. That is enough." They walked together in silence for a while, the hum of energy and the soft glow of the gardens creating a peaceful contrast to the chaos that had surrounded them. For the first time, the future felt open, full of possibility rather than fear. "You remind me of what humans can be," Lysera said finally. "Strong, brave, and full of hope even when everything is against them. I see now that we are not so different. Perhaps there is more to rule than fear and power." Aaron looked at her, sensing the truth in her words. Perhaps that is the real victory, not in battle, but in what we choose to protect and how we choose to live." Lysera nodded. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where humans and Virel could coexist, where courage, hope, and understanding shaped the galaxy more than fear and conquest. And standing beside Aaron, she felt the power of something greater than any weapon, the strength of the human spirit, and the beginning of a new era. In the silence of the gardens, under the soft light of the alien sun, the queen and the human soldier stood together. The war had not yet ended across the galaxy, but a bond had been forged that would change the course of history. Together they had faced impossible odds, defied the council, and proven that courage, hope, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. And in that moment, both of them understood that the future was theirs to shape, not with fear, not with power, but with strength, honor, and the unyielding will to do what was right.